Welcome to The Explainer. So, what if the very idea of success was actually a trap? I mean, really think about that. What if our most cherished values were the very things holding us back? Today, we're diving into a philosophical worldview that challenges, well, everything you think you know. And we're not just talking about, redefining what success means. No, this is about seeing it as a cage. The source material we're digging into today makes a pretty bold claim that our ambition, our drive, the whole pursuit of a better life, it might just be the ultimate illusion. So, come on, let's take a journey through this philosophical system that basically asks us to question it all: society, ourselves, and yeah, even reality itself. Get ready because you might just see the world a little differently after this. All right, Section 1, Questioning Convention. Let's dive right in by trying to get a handle on this source's big critique of conventional thought and how it says that shapes our reality. Okay, so the core idea here is that our thinking is boxed in by what the author calls magical powers. Now, hold on. We're not talking about wizards and spells. These are the everyday rules that run our lives, laws, ethics, even scientific theories. The argument is that they act like incantations, basically binding our minds and stopping us from being truly free. And this conventional way of thinking? Well, it's presented as the root of all our suffering. It goes so far as to say that even things like the Buddhist 8 kinds of suffering, the big ones like birth, aging, and death, are just products of our mindset. The claim is wild. If we could just break free from this thinking, all that pain would, poof, just disappear. Okay, on to Section 2, Society's Golden Rocks. Now we're going to see how this worldview starts to deconstruct some of society's biggest pillars, and we're starting with a big one: our faith in scientific progress. So the source uses this really powerful metaphor, golden locks, to talk about our genetic codes. And the idea is that genetic engineering isn't progress at all. It's more like we're dangerously picking the locks on nature's most important safeguards. The ones that keep the devils, or chaos, from pouring out into the world. And to really drive this point home, the author paints some seriously vivid, kind of terrifying scenarios. Just imagine this. You wake up, you're on your way to work, and you see people have grown tails. Just like that. All because, the story goes, we decided to unlock those genetic codes. Or how about this? Hundreds of cockroaches bigger than eagles just crawling out of your kitchen. Yikes. And the author warns that this isn't just about scaring us. The point is that these could be potential realities if we keep messing with the fundamental building blocks of life. Yeah, the fear here is that so-called gene hackers could push all of humanity right into an abyss. We're talking about an ecological disaster with no turning back. Our own progress could literally end up blocking the road ahead. And this skepticism, it's not just about science. It goes straight into our political systems too, specifically democracy. You know that old saying, 2 heads are better than 1. Or in this case, 3 cobblers are better than 1 wise man, Liang. Well, this philosophy says, nope, not a chance. It argues that even 30,000 cobblers could never outsmart that one brilliant individual. The vision of one great mind will always beat the consensus of the crowd. The author then goes on to argue that democracy just naturally leads to mediocrity. And they actually list out specific types of people who are supposedly drawn to it. I mean, look at this list. The implication is pretty clear. It's a system that's supposedly favored by people who want to dodge individual responsibility and accountability. All right, Section 3, the trap of ambition. Let's bring this down to a more personal level now and see how this whole way of thinking applies to our own ambitions and our relationships. So get this, the very pursuit of success is called a devil's trick. The idea is that when we push people, or ourselves, to be ambitious, to forge ahead, we're actually leading them away from a natural, peaceful life and straight toward, well, destruction. And even something we think is purely good, altruism, gets totally flipped on its head. The claim, the most selfish are those who live for others. I know, it sounds crazy, right? But why? Well, according to this worldview, when you live for others, you're actually interfering with their nature and their freedom. You're imposing your will on their lives. So we've always heard knowledge is power. This philosophy says not so fast. It argues that all that knowledge you get from books and learning is actually limited. It's rigid. Real, lasting power, that comes from within, from things like sincerity, kindness, love, and faith. Okay, Section 4, consciousness is key. So if society is flawed and our personal ambitions are a trap, what's left? What's the actual foundation of this worldview? Well, it all boils down to one thing: consciousness. Yeah, this entire philosophy, everything we've talked about, hinges on the answer to this one single question. Does existence determine consciousness? Or does consciousness determine existence? I mean, does the world out there shape who you are on the inside? Or do your thoughts on the inside actually shape the world out there? The answer, according to this, determines everything. And the source actually divides all of humanity into these different categories based on how they answer that question. You can see here, it suggests that most of us, mortals, laypeople, are stuck believing that our external reality shapes us. But the most enlightened beings, the saints and immortals, they're the ones who get it. They understand the real truth. Our consciousness is what creates our reality. And the argument for this is actually pretty straightforward when you think about it. Take a house. Before a single brick is laid, where does that house exist? It exists as an idea, an image in someone's consciousness, right? The house is then built in reality based on that imagination. The same goes for, well, everything we've ever created. So consciousness has to come first. So, Section 5, a world without rules. If we accept this principle, that consciousness creates reality, what does a world built on that idea even look like? Well, the implications are pretty radical, to say the least. And this is where it really departs from tradition. The source argues that our special relationships, with our parents, our kids, our partners, our friends, will actually ruin our lives. It claims these cherished bonds are the #1 source of human misery, anxiety, and pain, that these attachments are the real chains holding us back. So, according to this worldview, the real key to freedom is letting go of all those attachments. This classic quote here: "My clothes hang loosely on my emaciated body, but regrets I have none. It is because of her." It's used to illustrate just how all-consuming and ultimately destructive that kind of devotion to another person can be. And so, in the end, this whole philosophy doesn't really leave us with a neat and tidy answer. Instead, it leaves us with a question, a really big one for you to think about. If our consciousness really does determine our existence, then what reality are you choosing to build?